What's happening, people? Back with another reaction, back with some more Smashing Pumpkins from their 1998 album Adore. Thank you again to Sophia for sharing. Luca is up to some crazy antics over there. But yes, so the next track is Tear, or maybe Tear. I suppose among the two, I'd be more inclined to think it will be tear, as in a physiological manifestation of extreme emotion. Of course, you can cry for happy reasons or because you're inspired or in awe, but most often people cry because they feel upset, they feel hurt, they feel sad. But of course, there is an emotional violence to that, and tear can refer to a form of violence, whether literal or figurative, the idea of feeling torn, conflicted, or ripped apart. And so I feel like there could be a play on words or a narrative or scene that plays off of both renderings of the spelling of this word. So I do wonder what we might hear. It's a single word title. Those are always tough for me to get a sense of in advance, or at least to have any specific interpretation. So let's give it a listen. This is Smashing Pumpkins. The track is Tear or Tear, and it's from their 1998 album Adore.
Lost in motor crash, caught in a flash on you, but you knew all along. You left the light to sing the songs, to watch you now. I saw you there. You were on your way. You held for the first time. Haven't seen it said. 7 years taking you away. Do you know the way that I do you know the way that I can lose? Do you know the things that I can? Do you know the things that I can do? Yeah.
Oof. Powerful tune from what I gathered lyrically, but also sonically. Though it's interesting, the start was a bit minimal, and there was that section where it was just Billy's voice in a more restrained delivery, and that little looping beat. It was a very simple beat that was looping, and then it dropped in with a lot of weight, a lot of gravity, a bit discordant at the same time, and that really was a powerful moment and suggested that there's a lot of heaviness or heft to the track, which again seemed to be what was happening lyrically. It sounds like someone who is being torn apart, the idea of a violent ripping, and it seems it's because the other person has gone off, they've taken their heart away, and he's talking about what he has to lose or what he can't lose. At first I thought it was what I can lose, but then I think I heard that wrong, and I think it was what he can't lose. So there's a sense of urgency or desperation, but also an apoplexy or an uncertainty as to what has happened, where the other person left, and it sounds like the heavier parts of the track are perhaps, and indeed discordant parts of the track are a reflection of the disrupted and broken emotional state that the narrator finds himself in. I do feel like maybe there's a bit more to it than that, and it's perhaps as much about the narrator as it is about this other person, which again, if you're talking about what you can't lose, then it's characteristics of your own or scenarios in your own way that will have some consequences no matter what the other person does, or in relation to what the other person does, not specifically a characteristic or a situation of the other person per se. I do enjoy when Billy gets a bit more weighty in his own delivery, meaning it gets a bit of that, not again nasally, I say not in a bad way, but just in a characteristic Billy Corgan way of singing, a bit more intense and nasally in his extensions and his delivery, which was a bit more, again, powerful than in the opening part where it's a bit softer and more tender. So yeah, it sounds like there is melancholy, but also the violence of the tearing apart. So a heavy tune. I feel like that was a longer one. Indeed, when it seemed like it was about to peter out and to come to an end, and then it rolled back in with the heaviness again. So I enjoyed that moment and wasn't quite sure what was going to happen at that time, which again, maybe there's a bit of conceptual nature in that, where there's a bit of uncertainty and then it's like, oof, it like hits again. But I want to say at least 5 minutes. In fact, almost 6, just short of 6 minutes. So yes, a powerful tune, a tune with a discordant tone to it, at least in the main sections of the track, and one which again speaks to the, what's the right word, not just the heaviness, but the emotional significance of a lot of their tracks. Not that to say that I didn't know that. Again, going into this deep dive, a handful of the tunes I was familiar with, like Disarm or like Bullet with Butterfly Wings, maybe in different ways, those two tracks, but both of those have a lot of emotional intensity, and so it does seem like that is very much a part of their lyrics, even if some songs manifest that in a way where it's a bit unexpected. So, yeah, another cool tune from the Pumpkins. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Peace.